Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jonathan Michael, and I'm the founder of AdvisorX AI. We are a long form writing assistant for wealth advisors, and we help advisors write on all kinds of wealth management topics. So think of combining the capabilities of a research analyst with an expert content writer, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to do here at AdvisorX AI. And in today's webinar, we're going to talk to you about how you can master AI personas for your practice. Or if you're not a wealth advisor, you can still use some of the concepts here for your own unique use cases, right? So before I jump into explaining how you can master AI personas and engineer all these writing personalities, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cast a little bit of vision for us, right? So we have an idea of what to expect going into this webinar, but also over the next 5 years. So just bear with me here for a minute. This is what we think the future advisor is probably going to look like, right? It's going to have a VR headset strapped to his head. It's going to have a bunch of touchscreen devices. It's going to have all these wires connected and all these different computers, right? That's kind of what we think the future of advisor tech is going to look like, especially for you as an advisor, right? Super high touch, super high tech. That was a joke. Sorry. Yeah, I hope you got it, but not really. Um, Maybe this though. Maybe it's an advisor standing behind a touchscreen device, and you can operate all these different AI employees, right? And this very dystopian like future. Well, I thought it was important to open with those two slides there because there's a lot of dystopia today around generative AI and around AI specifically for advisors. There's all kinds of myths around it and just way too much of news cycles around it. So I thought it was important for us to like set the precipice and set a sort of foundation here. So we have an idea of what we can expect. What are the true benefits of generative AI? The future is actually going to be way more practical than you think, right? It's going to be dramatically augmented. So what do I mean by that word augmented, right? Let's look at a chart to kind of explain that. Well, before that, we'll actually look at this quick slide here. The following 5 years for advisors are all about productivity gains, right? So that's kind of what we want to communicate. That's kind of what I want to touch on. And we're going to, even the AI persona bit, it's all going to translate into real productivity gains for you. Sounds kind of boring. Sounds like, oh, wait, what? Just productivity? I feel like I hear that all the time. But the truth is that when we implement AI productivity really, really well, it can translate to real, real gains for your bottom line as well, right? So what does that actually look like, right? Is that my opinion or is that data that can actually back that up? So this is a chart from McKinsey and the IMF. And this is, I've taken a high level data point about what knowledge intensive workers are going to experience from the benefits of using generative AI. So I've taken like a high level data point and tried to like make it really contextualized for advisors. So all the innovation and all the benefits that you're seeing around generative AI today for advisors are going to be across these three different categories, right? One is routine task automation. The other one is client engagement and decision making and risk management, right? So I think we saw some of these play out in the early 2010s with the advent of robos and routine task automation and automated rebalancing and tax loss harvesting and all that, right? So we did see some of that play out. But what we're going to see now is we're going to see a whole new set of use cases, right? And so AdvisorX, we sit right between routine task automation and client engagement. It's a nice sweet spot there, right? So let's take these percentage points and let's translate that into some real practicality, right? And the reason why I started off with this chart and I even put it in a frame because I wanted to frame this chart honestly because it brings practicality to all the hype today around AI. Everybody wants to talk about it. Everyone's creating dystopian like futures about it. Let's bring it down to real practicality for your firm so you can actually implement this starting today. Like my goal with this webinar is that you will take away some points and some ideas that you can implement inside your practice today, either with AdvisorX or without. So let's jump into some practicalities here. So with routine task automation, right? You're looking at time savings of about 8 to 12 hours per week. And you can figure out what that cost factor is going to be like for you on an hourly rate based on, how you relate with your vendors. Examples include document generation, right? So it's going to be way more easier to create complex reports, document reviews, summaries. I think we've already seen these use cases play out. AI meeting note taker, data analysis, compliance automation. A lot of it is kind of boring, like a little bit boring, but it's dramatically beneficial for efficiency, right? We're really seeing that play out already. There are some amazing meeting note taker apps and document generation tools that you can use today. Data analysis, of course, ChatGPT has advanced data analysis, end-to-end compliance automation. And then, of course, client engagement, right? So we definitely lean more into client engagement, but there's also some task automation that we're doing for advisors with AdvisorX. The era of templatized content is over. Advisors can now create content that's really unique to what they want to communicate to clients and prospects, and they can truly be the thought leaders that that they should have been in the first place. Using a carbon copy Wall Street Journal article and slapping your logo on it is really not going to cut it today with clients and consumers. So you want to be able to communicate your unique value proposition in a way that is meaningful, story-driven, and authentic. And so we're looking at time savings of 8 to 12 hours here, right, per week. Examples include client newsletters, LinkedIn content, long-form content generation. Let me stress on that for a minute. And we'll watch a demo video as well that can explain what long-form content generation is going to look like. Brand visuals, charts and graphs. All these different use cases for client engagement going to help advisors save 10 to 15 hours. And we're already seeing that play out with AdvisorX. And this could translate to other tools as well. So I want to be careful here not to just position AdvisorX as the solution, because you're probably using other AI systems today. So I'm biased to my own product. So take what I say with a massive bag of salt and translate it to see if it's a good fit for you and how you can implement some of these things in your existing workflows. So let me go back there a slide. What are AI personas and how do they actually work, right? That's probably why you're here for this webinar, to learn how you can create these personas. They're really designer-like characters and personalities that you can create with AI systems today. So a good illustration for that is to think about how scientists today, right, are able to look at genetic code and DNA sequencing and kind of figure out if that person's going to have a disease, or figure out what are the personality traits that person may have, so on and so forth. But probably a better illustration than that is, think of writing DNA code into your AI system and giving life to it. That's kind of what you're doing here with personas, right? AI personas can translate into different use cases for your firm. So you can have a financial planning persona, you can have a marketing persona, a virtual CMO, an estate planning expert, a retirement planning specialist. These personas change depending on what you really need. A tax planning specialist, it's really fully customizable. But the key with personas here, and different systems and different companies have different definitions of what AI personas really are. If you throw this question in a chatbot, it's probably going to give you a different reference than what I give you. But I'm trying to customize this webinar for advisors, and I'm trying to personalize it for advisors. So I'm taking a high-level definition and trying to make it really unique for the advisor's use case. So personas are writing characters or personalities that you can give life to, and I'm going to show you how with persona instructions and whatnot. But it's building on top of your proprietary knowledge base of domain expertise. And I think that's the key core concept that I want to communicate with all of you watching this today. We are not just creating AI-generated content that's just hitting off a bunch of APIs and spitting back generic content. That is not what's going on here. We are helping you inject your domain expertise into AI so you can ground the AI in a base level of truth and facts. And we're going to, definitely get a little bit more deeper into that. And then finally, of course, along with clear and specific persona instructions, that is essential, right? That's kind of the DNA code bit that I illustrated earlier on. Your persona instructions is what you tell your AI to do, and it responds in a similar format. And why is this essential, right? Again, I'm going back to the why. It's essential because large language models are large. You look at GPT-4 trained on billions and billions of web pages. There's a lot of nonsense in that training data set, and a lot of good stuff as well, right? What we are trying to do with personas is we're writing these persona instructions, we're injecting a knowledge base, so we can get the very best out of what these models have to offer us. And they have a lot of good to bring into our productivity and efficiency if we know exactly how to do that. So that's what we're going to cover through this webinar. And hopefully by the end of it, you'd have a good, solid idea of how this is going to play out for you. So why are they necessary, right? It drops the rate of hallucination and inaccuracy. There is still a trust problem today for advisors when it comes to using AI, right? AI tends to make stuff up. I'm sure you've heard stories of how AI created new case law. A bunch of lawyers used a chatbot and it created case law and they got into trouble. I think it was ChatGPT. So these kinds of issues like factual inaccuracies can be really nerve-wracking, to say the least, for advisors. And I made a video about this on YouTube, and you can definitely recommend you to watch that video. It's on our AdvisorX AI channel. It's an 8-minute video on this topic of hallucinations and how our tech helps you avoid those hallucinations. But really, it drops the rate of hallucination because when you inject it with a knowledge base, like I mentioned before, it grounds it in a base level of facts. And then personas are also necessary because it helps you to create compliant content. Maybe there are some unique compliance rules that you want the AI to pay attention to when it creates content that's unique for your firm, right? So going beyond FINRA and SEC marketing regulation and guidelines, which is, of course, like the base level foundation here for what we want to do when we create content for advisors, if you have unique compliance rules, you can inject that. You should be able to inject that into your persona. Giving shape to a desired writing style, right? Huge, because AI generated text, for the most part, is rather robotic. It's getting dramatically better, though, like with all these newer releases, newer models, but it's getting dramatically better. But you want to be able to inject your writing style so you can have the AI sound more like you. And some people may, like some advisors have asked me, well, Jonathan, then what do I do then as the advisor, right? If AI is going to create all this content for me, if AI is going to just adapt to my writing style, what do I do? Well, your job now can be in actually researching and reading through the content, reading through articles, reading through knowledge bases, and being an excellent proofreader, right? Because this content is going to be an amazing first draft. You're probably going to have to spend like 10% of your time reviewing it, right? And it's going to save you time so you can do what you do best, which is building client relationships. And then keeps your content up to date with live data. Personas should be able to not just retrieve information from your knowledge base, but it should also pull information from live data feeds that are accurate and up to date. You want to be able to create current event topics, right? For example, like the Biden tax proposal budget that was talked about a few weeks ago. How could that impact your retirement clients? How could that impact your corporate clients? There are some real repercussions of that bill if it gets passed, right? So being able to create something like that really fast, you need live data feeds. And of course, like I covered this before, it helps advisors save both time and money. So we're looking like at hours and hours of time each week and thousands of dollars each month. We're literally seeing that play out. So this is how most of us use large language models today. And this is not like, I don't mean to put down anyone with this diagram. Like I use large language models the same way. I'm talking about business use cases, firm use cases that you can actually use inside your firm, right? Like this is stuff that you can like create and send to an actual client is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just a personal GPT account that you can use just to get quick answers, or a Perplexity or account or a Claude account. I'm referring to firm use cases. So this is how most of us use LLMs today. And there's nothing wrong with that, as I mentioned before, but let's kind of look into it a little bit more. So you throw in a basic prompt and you hit the large language model, you talk to the large language model with the prompt, and the AI gives you a response, right? Pretty basic, pretty standard. Or if you're a little bit more sophisticated, you'll attach a file and you'll ask the AI to retrieve information from that file and create content that's around that file. That can be a pretty smart idea, smart thing to do. And you can do that now with GPT-4o and the new model and other AI tools, and it's pretty good, decent. Then you have a custom GPT right there. Here you can create your own GPT, right? That's pretty cool. Like you can create several custom GPTs, and I've created like 10, 15 custom GPTs myself. But the problem with this is that OpenAI and GPT and all these other AI models, like if you're using the generic chatbots, like generic chatbots and custom GPTs, they're designed for very normal everyday use cases. Like it's almost like use cases that you cannot use in a serious firm context, because even though it has knowledge-based retrieval, even though you can give it instructions, it's still limited. So here's what I mean by that. Now, unless you get a fine-tuning API and you train your own OpenAI model and you fine-tune it, you can get way better output. But perhaps some of this is already working for you. So like I said before, I'm going to be biased to AdvisorX AI. So I think you should take what I say with a grain of salt there, but actually with a massive bag of salt. So this is how most of us use LLMs today, right? Now, here are some limitations, like with custom instructions. For some reason, the picture isn't displaying here, but with limited custom instructions inside ChatGPT, if you have a GPT Plus account, so this is for paid chatbot users, right? If you have a paid ChatGPT account, you're going to see that you can actually customize your GPT. So there's a field there where you can add text and give custom instructions. That's limited to a context limit of 1,500 characters. So it's limited in the kind of information you can retrieve from it. It still does a job, but it's still limited, especially for advisors. So what are the core building blocks of AI personas? And I touched on this briefly, but we'll just quickly go through that one by one so we have an idea. Starting off with a knowledge base, right? A knowledge base is your proprietary set of documents or web sources, right? So imagine you have 10 different personas. Each persona has a unique repository of documents. Maybe it's blogs and articles and PDFs and white papers that you've written before. And now you want to leverage that on top of an AI model. Bam, you can do that now, right? Maybe there are web sources that you really like seekingalpha.com, that you may want to use inside a specific persona. You can do that now, right? So knowledge base is integral for your AI persona. And then a writing style, right? I mentioned that before. It's pretty straightforward. Add a snippet of your writing style so that the persona can adapt to that specific writing style. It doesn't have to be your own writing style. It can be someone else's writing style that you really enjoy and you want to use that for a different writing assistant. You can totally do that. Live data feeds are also essential, like I mentioned before. Keeps your content fully up to date. And then persona instructions. And this is where we're going to spend some time here today and looking at those building blocks of what it takes to give life to your persona. Because you can upload a knowledge base, you can have a writing style, you can have live data feeds even, and you'll get pretty decent output. But your persona instructions, some may translate it as prompt engineering or a system message or so on and so forth. Persona instructions is you telling your AI, telling your specific persona, telling your specific writing assistant what it should do, what are the goals it should follow, what are the compliance rules, and all those different instructions. And we're going to cover that one by one. Another core piece that I want to cover on this slide is that using multiple large language models at the center of it, right? So at AdvisorX, we really believe in using multiple large language models and multiple AI systems so that we can bring the best capabilities of each model into AdvisorX. So with GPT-4o, for example, we don't recommend it for writing long-form content. So we prefer using other models other than GPT-4o for writing long-form content. So I'm just going to use that as an example because we're all super familiar with GPT-4. And I've seen advisors who often get a little uneasy after using GPT-4. They're like, oh, it sounds robotic. I don't like its writing style. I'm not going to use it anymore. Well, totally get it, because GPT-4o is actually an amazing brainstorming tool and idea generator. It's really, really good at coming up with great ideas, coming up with advanced data analysis, and doing those like intensive brainstorming type work. That's what we've seen GPT-4o to be really good at. And so we use about 10 different AI models today to help our advisors create content. And that's what helps create that unique writing style. That's what enables us to create content that advisors can actually use, like reports, or writing in the style of an economic analyst, or writing market commentaries that require an AI model to chew through a lot of numbers and also synthesize that with live data feeds, synthesize that with marketing content, synthesize that with the advisor's firm, with the persona instructions. So there's a lot to do there, right? So that's why we like using multiple models. All right. So this is what a knowledge base looks like. You add a document, pretty straightforward stuff, and the AI will, immediately has a repository of everything that you uploaded for specific personas, right? So this is not just one knowledge base, you can have several knowledge bases. Over here is an example of a virtual CFP, and I uploaded a bunch of documents here from the CFP board. I've not officially used it anywhere, but it's something that I've done for demos. So knowledge-based security, I'll touch on this really quickly before we jump into persona instructions. So bear with me here. We're going to try to wrap it up in the next 15, 20 minutes. But I just want to touch on a few security protocol points here. As I'm assuming that some of you watching this may be a little concerned about what is the security going to look like if I'm going to upload all my documents, if I'm going to give all these instructions and give information about my firm. How do I know that we are not training on top of those documents or training on top of your instructions? Your documents are highly secure. They can't be used to train models. We use deep encryption protocols to make sure that your documents, when it's both at rest and translate, is secure and encrypted. We can't touch it. We can't do anything with it. OpenAI can't do anything with it. Anthropic cannot. Mistral, open source, nothing. No one can touch your proprietary documents. I just want to set that straight. Content grounding. So this is a core piece that I want to touch on. Personas are essential for us because it helps us to ground the content that we write in a base level of truth. So you may have heard me, I mentioned this before earlier on in the webinar, that you want to ground your AI with a base level of truth and facts that's unique to you. This is kind of an example of what I mean by that. So over here, this is a snippet text from our AdvisorX dashboard. And you can see over here, you can see the sources, right? And you can see web sources here as well. So now you know where the AI is pulling information from and whether you can trust it or not. And the cool thing is you control both the sources, document sources, and the web sources. Writing style, like we covered that before, you add a snippet of text and you humanize the text. Live data feeds. So for personas to be truly unique and updated and current, you want to use live data feeds. And so this is an example of a feature that we have that lets you to choose a time frame that you want to pull data from, that you want to pull information from live websites. So you can choose the actual time frame here, like past year, past quarter, past month, past week, past day. So now the AI can create really specific content that's, within a specific time frame. Include domains. You can include or exclude domains that you don't want, that you want or don't want the AI to pull from, right? Again, really important for you if there are certain web sources that you deeply trust. And then persona instructions. Finally, we're here, right? So this is where the meat of the webinar is going to be today, and hopefully it's going to be beneficial for you. So persona instructions, right? So this is our response configuration where you can choose the AI model there on top. You can choose a response length. And here's where you feed your instructions, right? And you can go as long as 6,000 characters, right? With a lot of other generic chatbots today that are not trained for advisors, those system messages or custom instruction boxes are kind of limited to either 1,500 characters or 3,000 characters, right? And anyone in AI will tell you this. Anyone who understands anyone who understands anything about AI or the basics of AI will tell you that what makes AI systems truly unique is data. What makes it truly personalized to you is your information, your persona instructions, and your domain expertise, right? Data is key, and you want to make sure that you're feeding it the right instructions. All right, so let's get right into it. I'm excited. I feel like I spoke a lot getting into the section. I would have liked to have gotten you faster, but let's start with the first section here, right? And what I've tried to do here is I've highlighted different texts and different topics, different important texts here, so you can understand the core essentials and through actual examples. So I've used a hypothetical illustration of a firm called XYZ Wealth. So the first section of your persona instructions is really 2 pages of text. And what we're going to go through is we're going to go through these 9 building blocks, but you can mix in, you can change it around. Like you can customize this template. This is not like a fixed template. You can totally customize it and change it around, right? But notice that the first opening sentence, right? I gave it a personality. You are an expert content marketer for XYZ Wealth with 20 plus years of experience writing on retirement planning topics. So I was specific about topics that I wanted to cover, retirement planning topics. You are approachable, wise, and reassuring. So you can change that for you if you want the AI to take in a different tone. And your job is to ensure clients feel both informed and comforted by the guidance provided. So high level personality design, giving it personality and character, right? Giving it some flair, so to say, so it's not super generic. The next bit is to provide specific goals, right? You were tasked with generating informative, insightful, and engaging content focused exclusively on retirement planning. So those are some keywords, focusing exclusively on retirement planning, right? But then I can also add subtopics there, right? Saving strategies, investment options, tax planning, Medicare, Social Security benefits, and estate planning. So I threw in the subtopics there. I would recommend that you probably don't want to do that. If you want to have a retirement planning persona, just have it focus on all retirement planning topics that are very specific to that niche, right? Same thing for estate planning, tax planning, college savings funds. And in each of these personas, I'm going to talk to you about how you can also include information about your ideal clientele. So we're going to get there in the next bits, right? In the next few slides. But again, you're reminding in each paragraph, you're reminding the AI, ensure that each piece of content is actionable, providing clients with clear guidance and encouraging them to think proactively about their retirement plans, right? Again, really important. So I hope this was clear. So you start with personality design, and then you provide specific goals. And again, this can change for you based on what you want to write or talk about. The third part is giving it more important instructions, right? Again, you're continuously reinforcing, and sometimes you might see some overlap, but really you're reinforcing some things here because you want the model to be really, really, really focused, right? And the more specificity you give it, the better the output you're going to have inside of your chatbots and AI systems. Always align content with the latest retirement planning trends and regulatory changes. Ensure all advice is practical, providing real-world applications and examples only when prompted for, right? Keep your example simple and jargon-free, but without oversimplifying the complexities of retirement planning. Address common fears and questions. So I think you kind of get my drift here, right? It's pretty simple and straightforward. This is not rocket science. This is really about understanding how to talk to an AI model. And one of the best illustrations that I've heard personally about talking to an AI model is talk to an AI model like you would talk to a junior employee, which I think is kind of cool. 4, step-by-step process. And this is huge, right? Why are we doing this? Why are we following a step-by-step process and going into depth about giving this persona, all these instructions? It's because you want the AI model to reason. You want it to think logically in a step-by-step process. And when you enable it to think better and, when you help it to apply logical reasoning, you get way better output. And just to set the record straight, like persona instructions and prompting are two different things. So don't get confused between prompting techniques and persona instructions, right? Persona instructions are you giving your AI model a very specific goal, right? Prompting is going to be different. I'm going to show you an example. So hopefully I'm a little bit more clear and it's not confusing. So here, step-by-step process, identify the topic, research, write, right? So choose a specific aspect of retirement planning, research, and write. So you're just giving it a step-by-step process. And you can also throw in an outline here. And I threw that in, but I removed it. But if you want to add a specific outline that you want the AI to use, using an outline is always recommended. You can get some great output from that because when you tell the AI, write in the following format, and you say title, description, and you say what to include in the body, what you want to be specific in the conclusion, AI tends to respond better. So 5, brand tone, right? Again, huge. This is kind of important. And you want the AI to sound more like your firm. So you want it to take on that persona. And so you can decide what you want the brand tone to be like or sound like. And we kind of did that in the personality design already. So it's going to take some information from that. But the brand tone is where you can be more intentional by telling your persona exactly how you want it to behave from a tonality perspective, right? So we'll summarize all of this at the end. So if you've not been able to follow through with everything, we're going to summarize all these 9 building blocks at the end. And we'll talk about how you can apply that more. Number 6, target clientele. Huge one. Really, really, really important, right? So sometimes the AI will get information from your target clientele and then figure out what your brand tone should be automatically, because it's so good at knowing different different clientele types and what could be their potential core, their pain points, and what questions they may have for advisors. It's really, really good at doing that. So even if you can't figure out a brand tone, like you're like, oh, you know what? I don't know what my brand tone really is. I mean, I guess I want to be clear and simple, which is totally okay. It's great to be clear and simple. Sometimes just spending time with target clientele can help the AI pull in more context. So let's just focus here for a minute, but the audience you're writing for consists of individuals aged 50 and above who are actively planning for retirement. Actively planning for retirement. That is a key word. These clients value clarity, expertise, and personalized advice that considers their unique financial goals and personal circumstances, including the following pain points of this audience. They struggle with finding clear, expert, and personalized financial guidance that aligns with their unique goals and personal circumstances, right? So that is really important to note here, is you want to add clientele. Who are they? And this is for like several personas. So you may have to repeat this for all your personas, but that's okay. Trust me, you will not regret doing that. Following pain points is going to be important because it helps your AI to really drive those connecting points, right? You want to have a really solid hook that gets the attention of your audience, because the end goal, one would argue, is with all this content generation and with better client engagement and with AI driven productivity, is to drive better engagement. At the end of the day, you want to be able to drive better engagement, get more referrals, and grow your firm, right? And so teaching AI what the pain points are for your ideal clientele can go a long way. So following pain points of this audience, they struggle with finding clear, expert, and personalized financial guidance that aligns with their unique goals and personal circumstances. A huge building block for your persona. Add an example snippet. AI systems do really, really well when you give it an example. They are like junior employees. I know we use the word artificial intelligence and it makes us think that these are really, really intelligent beings almost, but really they are phenomenal prediction machines. Okay, they're predicting the next word. They're amazing. They are phenomenally like great at doing that, but they are at the end of the day prediction machines, right? On steroids. We saw some, I'm going to get a little distracted here, but bear with me for a minute. We saw a lot of these prediction models play out in machine learning and robo advisors, which are really predicting what would be the best investment recommendation. But now, because of large language models, we've kind of added on like steroids on top of those machine learning systems, and we are enabling AI to really predict at a really amazing pace, and with an amazing ability to synthesize what all the sentences mean, right? I think that is huge. And now it's getting even better to the extent that it's able to understand your tone of voice. It's able to interpret emotions and feelings, which is crazy. So if you look at the GPT-4o, I'm going to get distracted here for a minute, but I just want to touch on this. If you saw the GPT-4o keynote, where you can now have a voice conversation with your GPT-4, I asked it the other day to pretend like it was an advisor from Goldman Sachs with 20 years of experience in wealth management. And I asked it to like recommend and, be an advisor for me personally. This is through my GPT account, through simple voice, right? And the reason why I'm using that illustration is so we can understand, or so that we can, kind of comprehend how good these systems are, but they're amazing at predicting and, writing stuff for us. But sometimes they may hallucinate, or they might, create things that are out of context when you don't give the right instructions. And so adding an example snippet definitely helps inside your persona instructions. So the AI can use that context to write better, right? So it's going to take in all the information you fed it about personality design and specific goals and step-by-step processes and whatnot. But your example snippet is really good because it's going to follow in that order. So even the best AI models you're seeing today, even the crazy demos you're seeing today, it learned from someone and something. That's how it got so good at it. It was trained on a lot of data. It was trained on a lot of voices, a lot of, articles, blogs, you name it, trained on a lot of data, which is why it's so great at predicting. It learns from what it's been trained on and then predicts the next best thing. So wanted to spend a little bit of time there because it's going to be worth your effort to add an example snippet. Unique compliance rules. Again, this is huge, right? Inside your persona instructions. So we're almost at the end of the webinar here, but so just hang in there with me. We're going to show some demos at the end and take some Q&A. But unique compliance rules, right? Like I mentioned before, like AdvisorX, you can run compliance reviews inside of AdvisorX, and we're already actively reviewing our text for non-compliant keywords. So we're scanning across like 500 plus non-compliant keywords, and we're automatically flagging that for advisors, right? But maybe you want to give more specific instructions to that writing persona to follow like certain compliance rules, right? And you can do that inside of your persona instructions, and you can add that on with your compliance team or your marketing team. And then finally, adding a disclosure, right? You can tell the AI, add the disclosure at the end of every piece you write. And so it'll automatically adapt to that disclosure, right? Pretty straightforward stuff here. Like there's a lot to explain here. You just take your disclosure that you use, and you tell your AI at the end of every content piece you write, make sure you add this disclosure so you can just copy paste, use it on your website, or whether it's social media, maybe you are part of a company where you have to add disclosures on your LinkedIn posts. This is a quick hack for you to figure out how to do that. So I'm going to show a quick demo now of exactly how this works inside of the AdvisorX AI system. I'm going to show an example of a prompt, and I'm going to touch on some prompt techniques. And then right after that, we're going to show you, let's see this in action. Let's see what these personas can actually do in action, right? Prompting techniques. So I'll spend a minute here. This may warrant for its own webinar, to be honest, but prompting techniques are really important. So it's different from your persona, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But most advisors will enter a prompt that looks something like this and get easily disappointed. Write me a blog about retirement planning, right? Super generic. And you know what happens with super generic? An average prompt is going to get an average output. And yes, there is such a thing as an average prompt, because when you're talking to large language models, like I've not mentioned this enough, you need to have really specific instructions in it to get the kind of output you want, right? So here is an example of a better way to prompt. So this is a screenshot from inside of a dashboard, and you can use this with whatever systems you use, right? You take a high-level task, right? So you give it a high-level task, like write me a blog on retirement planning, and hopefully you can see the text here inside. But in case you don't, what I've done here is I've broken up that task into several subtasks, right? So I asked it, write me a blog on retirement planning. Make sure to include introductions, basics, maximize savings, contribution strategies, investment strategies, healthcare costs, right? Specificity, right? You take a high-level task and then think about how you can translate that to all use cases, right? Maybe you're using it for advanced data analysis and you wanted to like comb through all these spreadsheets. So as opposed to saying, write me an analysis on this spreadsheet, you can go in a little deeper and say, write me an analysis on Microsoft's annual earnings report. Focus on how much business they made from their cloud computing business, from their software consulting business, from their Copilot business. So you can go through, like, you can be really specific there, and you want to apply specificity, like I mentioned that before. I feel like I've used that word quite a lot today, but hopefully it was beneficial. But prompting techniques, really essential. So let's try to see this in play. I'll play a video in the next slide, and then we'll watch a video case study from an advisor who's been using AdvisorX, and then we'll close the webinar and take some Q&A. All right, let's watch it. So over here, you're seeing I'm putting this in action, kind of showing you what's going on, right? So these are the step-by-step instructions that I was referring to. This is the prompt instruction. This is not a persona instruction. This is a search, a secondary search over your knowledge base. Here you can select presets, and here you can select your persona, right? So you can toggle between different personas. So it's going to click generate. And now the AI is going to create a bunch of text. So it chunked it into all these different sections. It took your basic prompt and then chunked it into different sections, right? So this is a quick, demo for you to understand how you can create content with AdvisorX, but you can still use that similar prompt inside the AI systems that you use. So I'm using this as a shameless promotional of how great our product is. But as you can see right here, it creates pretty nice long form text. So you don't have to go in and learn how to prompt the engine over and over again. And over here, you can see sources and web sources. And I'll just show this one quick thing before we go to the next video and close it off. But notice that it took that prompt, but it did secondary searches over the web to get the right information, right? That is really, really key and important to understand, because that's something that's out of your control. And that's something that we do on the back end. We take your prompt, and if it's using long form, if you're trying to create long form content, we'll do secondary searches over live data feeds so you can get the right information you want. Sometimes you may not have like the information in your knowledge base, right? And if you don't have the information in your knowledge base for the AI to retrieve information from, we'll retrieve it from the web instead. And oops, let me just pause that there. But this is a video case study from an advisor at farther.com. They're a modern wealth management firm growing really fast and having amazing success using our tools. We have a few advisors who are using it actively from Farther. And Eric actually volunteered to create a video testimonial on almost about why he's using AdvisorX. So I thought I'll just close off with this, and we'll summarize the 9 building blocks, and maybe you can take a screenshot of those 9 building blocks, and then we'll try to have some Q&A at the end of that. So thanks. Let's just quickly watch this.
Yeah. Let's look for ways to stand out as advisors. We give good advice and it changes people's lives. One of the toughest things we found is really content. How do you produce quality content, and what do you say, and how do you word it? And so that's something that every advisor is looking to do, whether they're buying content or creating their own content. And for us, we like to think about what's going on in the economy and how it relates to our clients and the niches that we serve, and then come up with some of our own content. And so that's really a struggle, right? Sometimes it takes us an hour to come up with a couple paragraphs that sound just right and get our message across that we're trying to say. So one of the things we love about AdvisorX AI is it helps us accomplish our goals a lot quicker, right? We already know what we want to say, but sometimes you get writer's block. And so a couple of things that make it really unique and important that other places don't have, right? Like what we found is other resources out there, they really only give you access to one LLM. So AdvisorX AI gives us access to multiple different LLMs. So it's important because cadences, some of them use different information or are updated on what the web has up to a certain year. So we're getting access to a lot at the same time. But what's really cool and unique, and what we found to be powerful, is we're able to upload documents that are specific to us, right? Some of our branding messaging, some of our outward facing client presentations, how we talk about what we do for clients and how we talk about our firm. And as we're typing, whatever post we want to do, this Infinite software pulls information from our uploaded documents. And so it has a knowledge base that it can speak like us, and it can interject words. And if I'm not even using words that our firm uses that get across our message, the program's going to do it for us, which is really cool. The other thing is we can assign it to pull talking points and cadences from domains. So this is really unique, and I haven't seen it anywhere, and that's really smart. So it can combine a particular research analyst's how they talk about things, and then combine it with our brand strategy. So that's been invaluable. I think the main point there is just we've been able to save countless hours of time knowing what we want to get across messaging wise, but not having writer's block or maybe not using the exact way we want to get that message out to our audience. So been a big time saver.
Yeah, that's really well said. So you would say that it's combining the capabilities of a research analyst along with an expert content marketer and bringing both those worlds together, because now you're having data-driven content, right? It's not just content, because a lot of models today have a training cutoff date and it's not fully up to date. But then having research capabilities, that definitely helps you create content that's updated. So that's awesome. So thank you for sharing that brief testimonial there, Eric. Appreciate that.
Well, I mean, I think it's also important to note, I've got one more thing, we use it for email responses. We use it for newsletters. We use it for white papers and content creation. And so you can use it for a variety of things. And what's really cool too is you can upload documents that maybe you want to recreate or talk about how it relates to something else that you might be wanting to talk about in the marketplace. You can tell the system to summarize some of these items and then combine them with a different message that you want to get across to your audience too. And all that is done pretty instantaneously. And it sounds amazing. And it allows the advisors to get the advice and the ideas and the messaging that they want to get out. And it's not just one thing. You can be really creative with this and start putting out content that other advisors actually aren't doing unless they've got access to Advisor XAI.
That's cool. That's awesome. And just one final thought, and you can keep this as brief as possible, but
sure.
Why not just use ChatGPT? Why use Advisor X?
Well, we've used ChatGPT. I've used Copilot, I've used Gemini, I've used Claude. I've used a lot of different LLMs. And the true difference is none of them are really trained on speaking like a financial advisor. They don't have the background knowledge. I'm not sure how you did that. Maybe that's your secret sauce. But the other programs I found don't have quite an in-depth knowledge base about wealth management. And then the other ones don't also give us access to upload documents and knowledge bases that allow it to have information that we want it to know. So I think those two things combined is kind of why it's a no-brainer for us, specifically, wealth advisors in the wealth management industry.
That's amazing.
All right, so that was Eric Allison there, and we'll just summarize all these different points that we discussed. But here we have all the building blocks: personality design, give your AI a character, provide specific goals, give instructions, step-by-step process, like an outline for the text, for the content piece you want to write. Give it a brand tone, but if you don't have a brand tone yet, focus on your ideal clientele. The AI can sometimes pull signals from that and pain points. Example snippet, huge. I blabbered on quite a bit there about GPT-4o and voice interaction, but use that as I use that as an example because example snippets are really important for AI to get a hint. You're giving it a hint of what it should, how it can write for you. Compliance rules that are unique to your firm. Maybe you're registered with your state and there are some very specific compliance rules that you need to apply to the AI model. You can write that inside the persona box. Adding disclosures, we talked about that. And just keep in mind that all these different building blocks of persona instructions work in harmony with your domain expertise and knowledge base, with live data feeds, with a humanizer that can adapt to your writing style. That is what brings personas together and enables you to create personas for almost anything you can imagine. Now, of course, there are restrictions and safety concerns around what you can actually do that are client-facing. So full disclosure there, we don't recommend using AI to generate financial advice and provide advice to your clients. You can use it as helping you with decision-making, so you are verifying that fact. So if you notice the third use case there was decision-making. When it comes to this augmentation era that we're in, you're in this era of dramatic automation for repetitive tasks, increase client engagement, and help with decision making and risk management. Those are the three core use cases that we're really covering here that companies are innovating around with generative AI for wealth management. And that's kind of what we need to look at when we're trying to measure will AI really be beneficial for me and my firm and my practice. So please follow us on YouTube and check out our website at advisorx.ai and follow me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Jonathan Michael. I'm always creating content for advisors. I'd love to connect with you. And schedule a demo. Please go to advisorx.ai and schedule a demo with me. If you found this webinar valuable and you're interested in AdvisorX, schedule a demo. I'm going to add the Calendly link in a minute. But schedule a demo and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about your firm's unique client communication needs. So thank you for attending this webinar. And if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. And we're going to launch a quick poll as well. I know people hate answering polls and surveys, but it really helps an early stage startup like ours to figure out how we can improve the content that we provide and some of the features and other things. So please take a minute into the poll there. So thank you. I'm going to launch the poll in a minute. All right. If anyone has questions, do we have a Q&A? We have one question here. Answer Life. Jonathan, can you discuss why I would use multiple personas versus just having a retirement planning persona that includes tax planning and social security. You can. I think that's totally okay. You can definitely do that, Andy. If you want to create a persona that is on retirement planning and also include tax planning and social security, you can do that. And the AI should do a pretty good job at that. But then if you want to bring in more specificity and more customization, if you want the AI to be really focused on tax planning, creating another persona for that alone is not the worst idea in the world. So that's kind of just a best practice, but you can use what's best for your firm. So, okay, do we have any more questions? And we'll end in a few minutes. All right. Took a quick poll. Please make sure you answer the poll before you leave. So we'll hang around for a few more minutes. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But if not, we can probably end the call, end the webinar. All right, we have another one. Where is the price? Yes, Sean, if you go to advisorx.ai, you can see the prices on our website. It's $99.99 a month, $100 a month. And you can see all the feature sets that we offer inside of that pricing plan. So yeah. Great. We have more questions. Okay. We do have one more question. Can I invest in AdvisorX AI? Anonymous attendee. Yes, you can. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. We are closing around the next few weeks and few months. So yeah, for sure you can. That's an interesting question to ask in a webinar and a live webinar, but please connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you. All right. Any more questions? Thank you all for coming to this webinar. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys out, but yes. Okie dokes. Gonna hang around for a few more minutes. Please answer the poll. That would be super helpful. And all right, decent results from the poll. So appreciate that. Great. All right, we'll wrap this up in 60 seconds. And if you don't have any more questions, I am going to end the webinar. So thank you all for attending this inaugural webinar. And I look forward to connecting with you all on LinkedIn and continuing this process of creating amazing content. So, well, who am I to judge if this content was amazing or not? But thank you all for attending and see you guys around.